What's up, you fucking chicken dicks? This is Willie McMillan. I'm here with one of my favorite Canadian snowboarders, funny motherfucker, and just, if anyone who knows him knows this guy, Andrew Hardingham. Welcome, Andrew.
Chicken dicks.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, man.
It felt right in the moment. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and I'm really excited about today's guest as well, because we're going a little out of the box here, which is good. That's, podcasts are so in the box. Let's get out of the box, and let's talk to creative mind and see what's going on in there.
I mean, out of the box. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has been in snowboarding since the heyday.
If you've ever looked at boards, gotten excited about, like got me, I used to read all the catalogs the year before and pick out my board based on graphics alone, because when I was like 13, and I remember Joyride, going through the Lamar, the Joyrides, all that kind of stuff. And then always when we get to LibTech, we would lose our mind because they were just so creative and they just didn't care what anyone else was doing in the industry. And I loved that. I loved companies that just had ugly boards, beautiful boards, but different boards. That was my thing.
Well, this guy, our guest, is, I think that he was definitely a snowboarder before he was an artist. And the dude, I mean, if you ever get a chance to ride with this guy, get the fuck out of the way. He is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, you do not want to meet him on the other side of some trees going full speed or something. Like, he charges like I've never seen before.
You always get second tracks, no matter how hard you try, kind of thing.
I mean, he's one of the best snowboarders I've ever seen in person, and he's, definitely one of my favorite artists on the planet. One of my favorite human beings. I've seen the guy go to extreme measures to help people out. I mean, he's just fucking epic.
That's what you want. That's the ultimate riding partner right there. Yep. Someone who can help. Let's intro him.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Parillo. Aloha, Mr. Hand. How's it going? What are you doing today?
Good. Sweating for sure. Just chilling, another day in paradise.
Where are you sitting right now?
I'm sitting on my lanai, in Pupukea, overlooking North Shore from Waimea to Kaena Point, on Oahu.
And Mike, just for maybe the listeners who don't know you, just give us a quick nutshell of your life from birth.
Just give us your life story.
It was the first and last day I touched a vagina, and that's where I moved on.
I mean, it's definitely what if I were to get into that, that's definitely what makes it interesting.
I'll help you through it, Mike. First of all, were you born in Texas?
No, hell no.
But you ended up in Texas at one point.
No, okay, I'll just do it.
Yeah, let me help you fuck up your own story. Here we go.
Yeah. So yeah, grew up in LA in the 80s, and came into snowboarding through dudes that worked for my dad restaurant, delivered pizzas. I was skating all over the place. It's fucking dangerous. There's drive-bys. I got jumped. I mean, all sorts of shit. And then I got hit by a car, and I didn't tell anybody, and I fucking got paralyzed from it. I had septic arthritis going on. They're going to cut my legs off. But a half year later, I convinced my parents to let me go snowboarding because it was safer. And so those dudes took me to the mountains, right? And then hooked immediately from there to, that was 86 or 7. And then cut to, running away, family dissolving in Big Bear with Gooch in 90 and 91. And then basically, went through all of the stuff with snowboard park building in the very beginning, built the first, I'd say, rider built parks. So beyond I think that was probably the first art I did. And then, fuck, it's so detailed. I could sit there. You could do a whole podcast on this.
So let's talk. Let's start at Bear. Like like growing up in Jackson, I was actually, that's where I wanted to be, was Bear. It seemed like that's where all the action was. Like that's where everyone was rolling through. Like that was like such a heated time in snowboarding. Like pretty much everything. I bet you there was like 5 tricks invented every day there during that time.
Oh, shit was progressing so fast. It was so fun. Like it was just like packs of dudes riding like 10 strong, like we had this crazy it was kind of like a luge course, like a bank slalom, but built into the hillside. And it was all side hits and turns and side hits and turns. It was like, that was the top of the park. The second half was all the jumps. So you just see like snake chains of dudes going down like packs. And like a lot of shit was going down. That's when a lot of the spin tricks and all the, it got actually too much with all the spin tricks.
Like, is that Project 6 Days? Is that what we're talking about?
We're talking like Roadkill and
nice.
Roadkill,
so
the Hard, the Hungry, and the Homeless.
So we're talking like, I remember they used to stick like handrails in and build like fake stairs out of snow.
That was the one rail.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I was like, fuck all this. We're not skaters, and you should be going too fast to hit a rail in my park.
Yeah, you should be going big.
Yeah.
So what?
There was one rail over at the very bottom, the last little table to get out of the park. It was across this like makeshift gap, and Patrick was a pro skater, so it was all good.
Yeah. So
that was the only one. And then there was this like big aluminum arch that I stole from the boneyards. It was actually like a $20,000 truss for one of those big tents they put up in the parking lots. Like it was like it was an I-beam, but it was made out of aluminum and it was all fitted. And I fucking stole it. And I heard later that like they were really pissed because it just got destroyed. Like 6 feet off the ground, 20 something feet long. It was just like a giant aluminum rainbow. And it was like flat ice on both sides. So that's all that was.
Okay. So we're cut down high backs, like size 44 jeans, frayed at the bottom,
for real.
Cut down boards.
Yeah.
26-inch stances. 24 to 26-inch
stance. Sometimes, yeah. Jeff Rushy moved there. That was like 1 or 2 of the years. And just a bunch of dirtbag kids. Like it was like punk rock on the all the No Effects and Pennywise playing. Yeah. It was a weird scene, but it was super fun. We didn't know any better, so to us it was everything.
Well, Big Bear is still fucking weird. Like I was just up there a couple weeks ago, and it's fun as hell, man. But it's always been such a weird fucking scene up there.
It's a trip. It really is. I went up there when I was in LA, like 2014, and I met Dave Downing, and Brian Thien for like a cruiser run. And I think I had like a 160. I felt like I was on a fucking submarine trying to ride around there.
Yeah.
And I was just like so embarrassed. Like, damn, because there was jumps. I wanted to hit things I wanted to do, but I was like, I can't believe I used to dominate this place and can barely get down the hill. I felt like.
Yeah.
So what I love about this is it's so progressive. Canada didn't even get started on jumps and stuff until the late 80s and early 90s. Like they just were so against it. It sounds like Bear was the forefront of almost North America snowboarding.
I think it was the first. I think it felt like that because it was the first time they really gave. Like we didn't drive the caps, but it was the first time they gave us like allocation of resources to just like do what we wanted. They basically gave us our own run with its own lift, and no skiers were allowed in there, and a certain amount of time and a little crew. So
how'd you get into that? How'd you get into building? Like what made you want to do that?
Okay, so when I did run away from home and I first went up to the mountains that first year, I was like living in a tent on the side of the road in the woods, basically across from the shitty ski resort that was down the road from Big Bear. It was like Snow Valley.
How old were you?
I was like 17 or 18.
Okay.
And so I'd go work night lift operator, and then I'd just go across the street, fall asleep, wake up, go sink shower at the ski resort. And I was doing that. I would sometimes hitchhike or walk all night to go dig pipes for free. And people started hearing that. And the guy who that was running the program, he really didn't snowboard, maybe a little bit, but he just was like this guy that worked for the mountain. And he just called me the steam shovel. And then one day he's like, "Hey, I'm leaving next year, and we need somebody to do this park. I think you'd be good for it." So, basically, Rob Defoe and I were there doing it, but Rob was kind of like a pro snowboarder guy, so somehow I ended up being the guy that just took charge of it. And I didn't really have an interest in it, but it was like this opportunity just like fell into my lap without even thinking. It wasn't even a conscious decision. I was just like, okay, this is what you're going to do. You're getting paid, and you're getting paid to snowboard. So it was awesome, and my mind just went into overdrive. Like, what can we do?
You get to control the narrative of what you're hitting now.
Yeah, I mean, pretty boy. There's like you just read the slope and like, well, we used to hit this little jib over here that was like some they blew a amount of snow wrong, so like you start thinking, and the shit would just evolve so fast. I'd probably 2-3 days a week. I'd go like at 4 a.m. for a couple hours. They were pretty, they were really like, you didn't get shit for time. I mean, I don't even know. They probably put hundreds of hours in multiple cats in these parks now. But you were just like trying to explain to this like redneck how to like, what do you want? So I'd be like using my hands. He'd just be looking at me like, what are you talking about? But after a while, I started to figure it out how to like just appease him, like bring him whatever beers or like some food or anything. And he started being cooler and cooler and would spend more time. And then he started coming in when I wasn't there and like fixing stuff because he knew how to do it. But anyway, yeah, it was just like it was really fun because it was the first time I think that they, like I said, they ever gave those resources to somebody to do it. And we knew what we wanted. And before I knew it, there was just cameras everywhere. Like within that first year it was happening, but the second year when I went back, it was legit. We had uniforms. We were just riding all day long. And man, I was talking about how with one of the surfers here about how I'm getting all the karma back that I used to give people, like, because surfers are dicks in the water for the most part. And I'm like, God, I think, I'm so nice to everybody, but I was like, I stopped myself. I'm like, yeah, but I was a dick back then. So it was a rough thing. We made jumps to hurt people for sure. I did, at least. And it was like, we could do it. I would test them first, but it was kind of a diss to Snow Summit, because Snow Summit was like the resort you went to if you wanted to go with the family, and little jumps with no landings.
Easy, just easy.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, it was easy. I was extreme in the way like that I am now, but I had a serious chip on my shoulder,
Can I ask you a question? When you look back at those parks, and if you were to ride them today, I know you have like this amazing view of them. Would you see those same parks as just spectacular? Would you feel the same way?
Well, it's funny because I would see them. I mean, I guess I'd have to take into account like what there was for resources, but in my mind, I was drawing this, and I was drawing it too. Like they look like the jumps that you see today, like that Audi Park, or I just saw one like a Super Park thing from a couple of years ago. How sculpted and perfectly square, and everything's like looks like it's concrete.
Yeah,
that's what my drawings look like, and then I would build models. So what I saw in my head is what you see now, but what we got was,
of course,
a like pile of mashed potatoes or something.
It's like that show Nailed It, basically. The baking show Nailed It.
Yeah. I guess the resources were never allocated to cleaning up the sides of the jumps. Like, I remember that didn't happen until like 2000, where it was just massive death cookies that would rip your face off if you went off.
The cats couldn't do it. I would try to shovel it because I was like crazy. My crew would get pissed at me. They're like, "What are you doing? No one's even ride that." But I'm like, "It looks like shit though." I'd be squaring the top off. Even when I was doing lift off, like I would, if I get stuck at a top lift at night, I'd look around and I'd start like just making stairs, and everything was perfect. Like it just felt like architectural. That's always what I wanted.
Would you say you had a little bit of an OCD attachment to it?
Totally, absolutely.
That's great. Yeah. And so I don't want to jump the gun here, but again, for those of you who don't know, the listeners, you transitioned into art, and you referenced the park building as your first artistic kind of output or expression. How do you think that kind of guided you into what you did later on?
For those first couple of years, like I met the Volcom guys, and I was like becoming friends with them, getting more involved with them, and through that I met Jamie, through snowboarding, everything. We traveled and do the first movies together.
This is Jamie Lynn.
Jamie Lynn, yeah. And then what year was it? We were filming something in Utah, and I blew out both my knees. So I just kind of had to sit down for a bit, and Jamie was around at the same time, so I started painting then. That was around, I was like 21 for sure, because Brian Higuchi had given me like some funny little art supplies, like a little acrylic set and like some like canvas paper for my 21st birthday, and that was sitting around, so I started with that, and then that was it.
I love that.
Wait, hold on. But that was in Texas.
No. That was in Laguna.
Why do I have this thing with I swear to God.
You're saying it with Jamie in Texas.
When my parents divorced, my family moved to Texas. My mom and my brothers and sisters. And then that first painting I did in Texas, actually, because I was away from home. So
that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
You got to get Willie set on this Texas thing.
Well,
there's a lot of details to the story. Like, it's a really, if I'm pausing, it's because I'm thinking, fuck, but I'm not saying
it's like, okay. Don't worry about
links it all together, you know.
Well,
there's a lot of steps that make it like I should probably write a little memoir about it, because it's pretty cool. You see how important timing is, and how like you know how it's like impossible to plan that kind of stuff, you know.
Well, and sometimes something that you think is like the worst thing that could ever happen to you ends up pushing you into your destiny. Your fate or whatever, you know.
Always. That's how the most successful people happen. They're the ones who deal with the problems better than the people who fail at the problems. So tell us about that first.
Ben. So each of these things takes so long as it's detail oriented, but yes. So during that time with the Volcom guys, I was like, I had a sketchbook. We'd be in, going to just shoot wherever randomly, and we'd have everybody piled in trucks or whatever. And we were going up to this place in the Sierras, and I was doing all these drawings, like in the back of the truck. They were all sketchy and shaky. And then we'd go to these passes in the Sierras and like take mushrooms, and we'd be filming. This is like the garden days. We called it the garden. This place. It was Sonora Pass. And so I was up there with those guys, and we had this whole crew, and we're up there like filming and like cooking and taking mushrooms.
Love that movie.
And all the storm comes in, and everybody's bummed, like they're just coming out of their mushrooms, and it starts pissing rain, and it's super cold, and everybody goes in their tents huddling, and then like a minute later, the sun comes out and pushes the clouds away. When everybody's peeking, they come back out. It was just like a God moment. So if you see the garden, you'll see like there's.
That was in the spring too, when you guys were like jumping over little creeks and stuff.
Yeah, we'd go up there. It was like closed roads because it's all military stuff up there. We just like would just sneak up in there, and nobody was going there before. Now it's crazy. I guess people go up there constantly, but we would just go up there and camp out and look for stuff. We'd hike forever just to there's a little shadow over there. Maybe that's a jump. You know, we just trek out.
I remember when I saw that movie, that was what kind of led snowboarders to explore more out of season as well. Because I remember the feeling I got from watching The Garden and seeing, Higuchi, and was Terje there too?
So we'd go recon. Brian Higuchi, myself, Richard Wolcott, and a photographer. We'd go just drive up 395. Where's that road go? We'd follow it until it dead ended, or we'd see something. So we found a couple different places. We were like unknowingly probably in some pretty dangerous situations with avalanches and stuff before anybody knew anything about that.
Ignorance is bliss, isn't it?
Yeah. There's this one place we went to called Virginia Lakes, and it was like an old, it was abandoned. I think there was maybe like a cabin or two up there, but there's nobody around. And we were hiking up these really weird rock faces, and it was kind of sketchy. Springtime, there was like a wet slab release stuff going on. And we get back and researched it and figured out that place has gotten destroyed by an avalanche back in the day, and that's the why there's no more town there. So you see all that stuff in the garden, and the library ride he would take us up there and kind of give us a little bit of tips, more like just go fast, was not like anything safe, but like speed is your friend, he told me one time. And those dudes were just gnarly, flying off everything, spring, like icy landings, almost flat sometimes, but just complete reckless regard.
Well, yeah, you got your 21-year-old back and knees still.
Yeah, true. But the year that we did the garden, it got really good up there. We probably went 2 or 3, maybe 4 times. We would just go up on the weekends, bring different crews, and walk around, find stuff. And it was great because you'd have the whole team there, and 2 or 3 people would really shine. But when Terry and Jamie came out, everybody kind of clicked on, and it was awesome. It was so fun to watch.
So that first painting you did when you were injured, that became that was the cover of the garden.
Back to that, it got painted in Texas because I went there right after that, and I was like, it was 100-something degrees. I went there for my brother's high school graduation and was stuck in this house. It was just humid, nasty Dallas. I was like, well, I'm gonna take one of those drawings I did when I was on mushrooms and make a painting out of it. I sat in the room and did it, and didn't know how to sign my name, but I finished it. I brought it back to California, and I go, "Hey, Richard, I did this painting for about our trip," and he goes, "No way, that's going to be the cover immediately." And he took it, and it was the whole advertising for the movie.
And what'd you write on the back of the painting? You called it something else.
Well, I called it the garden. I just wrote the garden on it on the back of the painting, and they had the movie officially titled as the Butterfly Garden. I didn't know that while I was gone, and they changed the name to the Garden.
It's so perfect, man. Like that's just that movie is just like a piece of evidence of like, sometimes when you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you kind of like are really innovative, and you're like, you accidentally stumble into like newness, and fresh shit. Yeah, being genuine, exactly.
That's a good point, Willie, because the Garden seemed to be the kickoff to creativity in films, right? Yeah. Everything else was like, if you knew what you were doing, there's a template. This is how we make a movie. Let's get it out. Well, and then the Garden came, and
it had a more, because it seemed like a lot of there were so many videos coming out back then, just like low budge, fucking
trying to be funny.
Little videos everywhere, and it was like Offspring, Pennywise, fucking Face to Face. It was like all these same soundtracks, and then like the Garden comes out and has like Neil Young and fucking all this dope shit. I mean, they made so many iconic video parts, throughout the years. But like, I feel like that Jamie Lynn Garden video part will probably always be the most iconic snowboard part of all time.
Yeah.
To me,
Well, I mean, that's no credit of mine. That's all Richard Wolcott and Troy Eckert. I think it's Richard Wolcott had done. He'd already made some films. He did Kelly Slater Black and White, and he was president of Volcom as a filmmaker and had really good musical taste and knew what he wanted. So combined with all of us writers, and then after I did that painting, he saw my potential and would ask me, "Oh, do you think you could do this?" And I would build like little sets or whatever. That's where you see all those little interludes. And
did you do all that?
Yeah, and then the hand that says 100% handmade. That was my hand. So we weren't shooting video; we were shooting 8mm too. Like, and it was all being sent to Texas to get developed, and it was those guys were hand splicing everything on little reel to reels.
Like, so how big was Volcom at this time? Like when you guys did the Garden?
That was
like, is it like garage? Is it like in the garage?
It was like a seriously small office, like that was probably like 200 square feet maybe before the first. I only saw that one time, and then we came back from one of the trips that we did, that Day in the Dirt trip that established everything, and it was a different office on like really close to the. They're all in the same area in Costa Mesa. It was like on Production Place, and so that was office number 2. There's a mini ramp there. That was. I think that was a library ride. The very first movie was there, and then the second movie, The Garden, was at another spot on Production Place. So it was probably maybe 30 employees, 40 employees, still super small. We'd have like
Monday morning meetings.
That's super small.
Huge to me
for LA.
It was a really big deal. The amount of money that was being spent on the movie, just everything. Yeah.
Well, a lot of Super 8 as well. I remember, like that's when after the Garden, I went out and I bought a little Minolta Super 8 camera that I loved and I used tons, but I just loved the medium that they kept using. They weren't just jumping on the first digital cameras, the 3-chip digis. They were like, they were shit.
Photographers and buying cameras from people, and luckily Richard knew a ton of people. They knew a lot. Like when I look back, I think about it like those dudes really knew what they were doing.
Well, dude, they hand spliced that entire movie together, right?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, like just that alone is fucking insane. I mean, you remember back in the day when kids would make their little skate parts with two VHS, like, dubbing them together, and it was such a piece of shit. Like. If you didn't have like an editing board or whatever, like in high school, like, the editing was so scrappy, but to hand splice the film without like fucking the film up, without, even getting it to cup, like it blows my mind. Like
we had these, I remember they had these tall, like, I don't know, like probably 3 foot square by like 4 feet tall boxes where they'd cut the top off, and then you'd cut the piece of film and put it inside the box, hanging taped to the side, like hanging in, labeled. So it's just boxes with strips of film all the way around, all over the place. And that's how they organize.
You know what I love about that too is there's not like these days, and I'm not trying to be like these days kids don't know, but you're so fortunate that you got to go through that transition of film so you can understand digital. Whereas everyone today just thinks you press go and you press stop, and that's a film. And like we were fortunate enough to use 16 mil and 8 mil as well. And I even did the stupid little VHS to VHS thing. But then all of a sudden digital comes out as 24p. Well, what the hell does that mean? But because it's 24 frames, exactly that's 1 second of real time. Like I love that snowboarding started in a time of full film.
Yeah.
And the garden epitomizes that.
Well, perfectly. Hey, and you can tell the difference too with photographers and cinematographers that started out in film and the ones who started in digi.
Absolutely.
Like the ones who used to run 16, the ones that used to take slide photos, 35 mil, all that stuff, all their digital shit looks so much better.
They own digital. They get it. They know how to use it as a medium, and it's just great. Like the garden, I just think epitomizes that. That is just perfect.
Yeah.
I love that we talked about the garden. I'm so stoked.
It's going to be a 4-part series if we keep going at this pace because it's.
Let it be. Let it be.
No, let's. I think I love it. But yeah.
Hey,
there's so much,
Real quick before we can, Andrew, are you seeing this blurred background on Mikey too?
Yeah, it's depth of field.
It's like I think it's your setting on your app, Mikey.
Oh, on my app, I got it. Is it? We haven't fixed this before, so how do I do it?
I don't know, man.
It could just be. Is it like a real camera, or is it just a Logitech?
It's his phone.
It's my phone, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a setting then.
It's just weird because it's like breaking up behind you. Like
I like it. I like it. It's
all right,
pretty.
All right, let's run it. Let's go with it.
Came in before though, it was all good.
Yeah, it was.
We'll see. Like
just because you're close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dark.
Okay, let's keep going. So, the Volcom days, the Big Bear, all that stuff. So, where does it go? Where does it go from Big Bear, and how does that end? Does that scene just kind of fizz out, or like? What happened?
I was getting sick of getting sick of building parks. I was building parks. I definitely wanted to be a rider more than I wanted to be a park builder, but I was getting sent around the world sometimes to do it, and but I was also watching all my friends get hurt. I was breaking collarbones and blowing out knees of everybody I knew. But I'm trying to think of how it pretty much ended. I just was getting sick of doing ski resorts and everything because, like I said, I wasn't politics. Start over with the new people every time you do that, But I left Big Bear because we wanted to do more. I wanted to live. I didn't want to live up there anymore, and I wanted to be more involved with Volcom. And I think it was because they offered me after a library ride, they offered me more of a position as like a team manager, team coach kind of thing, like a youth counselor almost for the Grom team because we had so many little kids,
So who were some of the kids like Jeff Anderson and Billy and
Jeff and Billy,
Joel Mayhaffey,
Joel and Ben Ashburner, and so many good guys, and Jamie Heinrich was also a filmmaker.
Yeah,
those guys all got onto Volcom because they gave us one of the submission videos that was full VHS to VHS, like Incline Punks, those guys. So they sponsored
me videos from the 90s.
They're the only guys that got picked up like that. But yeah, those guys, and then who else was there? It was pretty much those kids, and they were a fucking handful to say the least. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Derelict snowboarders.
Jeff understood the shit I had to deal with. It was just constantly putting out fires when you travel with them because they're just kids,
Yeah. Well, and you were a kid too. Even the adults in those situations were kids back then.
I felt like dad. Yeah, I felt like dad, but I was in my 20s. Yeah, 21, 22.
Exactly. It's, all the snowboard companies were owned by 20-year-olds back then. I remember
telling Ryan Immegard, who was riding for Volcom, now he's one of the lead, I want to say corpos, but he's one of the dudes that came into Volcom when he was really young. I knew him at 14, but I was telling him when we were up in Big Bear, I was so jealous that because I hadn't got sponsored by Volcom, I was like, oh yeah, they won't pick me up because I'm too old already. And I was like 20, maybe 19 or 20.
That's so funny,
I was washed up.
This sport has exercised age discrimination since the very beginning. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, surfing right now, the kids are crazy. the 16-year-olds on the North Shore are like, dude, the stories I hear about them when they were 7 years old, I can't even believe the shit that their parents were like, yeah, go out there, no worries. And they handled like men. But yeah, it's just insane how these kids are.
Does every like parent out there, are they trying the next John or whatever? Like,
no, not really. No. I mean, there's just everybody rips so hard. The kids got to prove it themselves, you know.
Yeah, because it's more of a respect thing out there, right? Like,
yeah,
like,
I mean, well, you got to. It's just there's a real, like, when it comes to that, there's a defining line. Like you got to be, as a young kid, willing to paddle out big days of pipeline, deal with that whole crew, that whole whatever, that the wolf pack out there, and somehow over time work your way in. Usually it's by taking the biggest waves.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of like, you know, when you show up in prison, you got to beat the shit out of the biggest dude there. It's like you show up in North Shore, you got to drop in on the biggest wave you can find.
I thought you just sucked the dick of the biggest guy there. Fuck, I've been doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So they definitely, there's definitely families that are recognized more. And
yeah,
I mean, there's a pecking order heavy and you got to obey it.
Are there, and let's switch a little bit to surfing here because we all want to hear about it. Is there like soccer moms and hockey moms? I'm Canadian. That's what we call them.
I think there is. Not really moms. You know, I haven't really seen the contest circuit on that level. I kind of see the behind the scenes of the big ones. But I know a couple of the dads, and I think that families are really supportive. And I think there's a lot of the parents were pro surfers, the ones for the kids that are doing really good.
So they get it.
They get it. Yeah.
Well, it's probably quite a bit different out there than it is to like say like Newport Beach. Like I could see more like soccer mom, coach dad dudes in like Newport or like California or something like that. Like it seems like Hawaii is just way different, you know?
It's completely different. Well, I mean, I think it just happens more naturally too, because it's a lifestyle of being a waterman, you know, and growing up and having respect for your uncles and your dad. And
I love that about surfing, you know?
Yeah. It's not one of those things you can fake or like pose at all.
Yeah.
You know?
It's been around for a lot longer too, so it does have a historical culture as well, whereas snowboarding is,
Absolutely.
You know, early 80s.
Well, it's just another thing too, where like, you know, there's pros these days in snowboarding that have never like ridden down an actual mountain. They just like snowboard in the streets, and maybe they've been snowboarding 3 years and they're professionals. Like, I mean, the amount of work, like I look at surfing as almost like stand-up comedy as far as like the amount of dues that you have to pay to pull it off. You know what I mean? Like snowboarding is like a kind of a joke compared to that. I mean, skating's like that too, I guess, but I think more than anything it's surfing, because like you can, you know, Roddy Mullen can go learn how to skate in his dad's driveway, you know, 12 hours a day and become like the best freestyler in the world. But it's like, if you want to go out and become a good surfer, like you got to go deal with 50 people in the water that have been surfing that spot for fucking 10 years plus, you know. It's like,
but you could go to kind of private breaks too, and you could go to places other people don't go.
Yeah. Well, and over here, like all the kids that are all, you know, top of the scene, they all grew up here on the beach, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
they're comfortable with it.
Yeah. I mean, like it happens to me so often where I'm out, like, and I'm kind of like a little bit gripped, and there's like a 5-year-old or 7-year-old next to me.
Yeah. You know, I saw that. I was there one year for the what is it, Eddie Aki?
Oh, you're there for Eddie runs. It's so hard for it to run. You're there on like a magic day.
It was gnarly. And
2016.
And so I'll tell this story to you guys, but I'll tell Andrew. We have this buddy that we know from Prague. So I was there with Joel, and basically I took way too many mushrooms that day, and it was like 100 fucking whatever degrees out. It was so hot I couldn't deal with it. I had to like take a knee behind this like local Hawaiian dude that had his umbrella up, and I was like poaching his shade behind his like lawn chair, and he turns around, he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm so fucked up on mushrooms right now, and I just need like a little bit of your shade if that's cool." It's like, he's like, "You're good." And he just let me chill. Like I was like balled up, taking up this corner of his fucking umbrella, trying to hide from the sun. But
I wouldn't want to be there on mushrooms.
Dude, and that's what the problem was, is that I felt like it was like this crazy tribal thing, like where all the locals go to the beach, and like when the surfers actually make it back onto the sand, the whole place erupts basically out of like, we respect you, you're a warrior, like you made it out of there alive. The waves were like, fuck you, huge that day too. They were like,
well,
40,
to run it, you have
50,
to have,
I don't know.
yeah,
Like
to run it, the buoys have to read 20 feet plus for a solid 8 hours. So they know that they'll have that window of the same size wave for the whole time. And it
dude,
doesn't happen that often. And so it's 40 foot plus faces. Yeah.
that morning, this like one set came in and just fucking squeegeed everybody onto the beach. Like it took
all
out
5 jet skis.
It took out the Walsh brothers, like all those dudes on the jet skis, you know, the safety team. Like you could see these jet skiers just pinning it, trying to outrun the wave, and it was just smoking. It just like, yeah, just squeegeed everybody onto the shore. It was.
You know how lucky you are you got to see that? That's like
I was about to say.
That's one of the most historic shots in surfing right now.
But
2016?
2016.
Yeah, I will say that when, hey Mikey, oh yeah, there you go. When we actually went to the bar that night at Turtle Bay, and watching it on the big screen was way better, because in person, dudes are so tiny, man.
Yeah, it's so hard. You got to go up you got to be at the right place. You got to know the right cliff to be on. But
yeah, and have binoculars, you know, and not be
even
like
Pipe Masters is super close to shore, and it's better to watch on TV sometimes.
Yeah, it's insane. You couldn't even see what these dudes were doing, but the water, it was so intimidating that day. I was like, couldn't even imagine walking 10 feet into the water. Just the way, I mean, the waves right there. Like it was.
You know how often people just get taken off the beach and never seen again?
Oh, yeah. Just
like it happened a couple times last winter. Swedish tourist girl sitting there with her back to the ocean, or I don't know. But anyway, wave grabbed her. Her friends tried to go get her. They saw her go under a wave and just never saw her again.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, I don't.
Searching, yeah.
The only place I'll swim out there is like at Turtle Bay. They have like the rope, the like netted off little area that keeps all the sharks out and stuff. It's for like the white tourists to go like swimming.
It's a great beach.
I dig that. But okay. Let's get back to you. Enough about. We'll come back to surfing because I want to talk about your whole journey with that. But so you go to LA and you start working for Volcom. Start getting more involved with. I think that's where we left off.
Yeah,
you kind of got to
County,
working for them. So where were you living in? Like
I was living
Newport
in Laguna.
Beach?
Living in Laguna. We drive from South Laguna up to Costa Mesa every day. Living there in the summers and up in Big Bear in the winters. But that last year in Big Bear, like 93 or 92, 93 or 93, 94, I moved down there. I was pretty much just there, and we were just traveling during the winter to shoot the movies and do whatever. Yeah. The time frame's a little bit jumbled. I would probably have to sit down and write it down to like, like I said, there's a lot of details in there, but I was still building parks. I'd go here and there and still working for Volcom at the same time. I just don't remember how it was all working out, if I was in the office all the time or what, but I would go and build a park and then bring people to film with me. Like when I went to Australia and brought Terje and Gooch with me, would go to Japan and bring somebody with me. So that was all starting to be connected. And then more and more I was in the office. And then when I got hurt and started painting, after that's kind of when me being an employee in a company didn't work anymore, because I would stay up all night. And they're like, I don't know. There's got to be a better way. We think we're suffocating you. And I realized that. I didn't realize it until after that I was getting let go. But I kind of took on moving to Jackson at the same time as a satellite, like team manager, kind of what do they call it, ambassador. But that was it. That was like 95, 96. So between that time, those 5 years, it's a jumbled mess. But there's park building, painting, filming, and the whole foundation of everything that happened from afterwards when we moved to Jackson.
And so did Gooch already live in Jackson for a year before you came out?
Because I remember him the first year. Yeah, he lived in that.
He had like yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, he lived over there. That was I think that was 95, 96, and then I came out in 96, 97. That's for sure in Hard Winter Lane. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew, these guys had this big log cabin on this off the village road, which it's real close to the resort, but it's like down this desolate road, this massive cabin. So, Gooch moves out there and, brings all his buddies out. It's like Parillo, Johan, Terje. Who else is coming out during?
It was me and Gooch and Ramirez, and then there was a spare room that Burton paid for, and it was pretty much Johan.
Yeah.
And Ingmar Bachmann would come out too. And that's how we met Mari too.
Yep. I remember. So that winter, I swear Johan was on mushrooms every single day riding.
Every day. Yeah. For sure.
So Johan would just paint these lines at our resort, like first thing in the morning. It'd be 9:06, and you'd be going up the lift, and we'd be like, "Who the fuck did that line?" Like shit that we've never seen anyone do. And then we started figuring out it was Johan, and then it was like these guys were all just leaving these fucking crazy lines around the mountain. Like I feel like in a big way, you and Gooch and Johan and all you guys really showed us how to ride our own mountain.
I was scared shitless with those dudes. I was just kind of trying to find an easy line. But the crazy thing about Brian and Johan were mostly Johan drinking mushrooms out of a Boda bag in the tram line. But we'd be on the chair, he'd be like going up Thunder or something, and he would be quiet, and he'd be going back up the chair within the second time after seeing those lines, and he wouldn't even tell you that he did it. You just see, like, he would kind of like afterwards you figure out that was him that did that.
Oh yeah.
So he wouldn't even talk about it. The craziest thing I ever saw him do was nuts. Like I think it was in mushroom shoots. We're on top, and it's just like you just see like just little pillows everywhere, but there's like forest on sides. It's just like straight trees.
Yeah.
He saw some line through like pillow through mushroom shoots, but then he went Mach speed, like after like hitting 4 or 5 pillows, straight into the trees as fast as he could, because he saw like a shoot through the trees.
Yeah. He's done some lines in Jackson that I believe will never be done again. Yeah. Like, you know where Broadway shoot is on like expert shoots over there? Like, you come down from Corbett's and you're going to Thunder from Corbett's. Anyway,
okay. Yeah.
There's a shoot there called Broadway shoot, and it's kind of like this natural half pipe, but both sides of the walls are just rocky, sharky fuckery on both sides. Anyway, it was really deep that year. You guys were there, were like one of the best seasons in history, basically. Yeah. Johan drops in on this cliff from, couple hundred yards above the Broadway shoot, frontside cabs off this cliff. That's the start of his line. Frontside cabs off of this cliff, points it at this shoot that for some reason he saw that the right wall would be like a fucking jump. Like he was like airing out of a half pipe, basically. Points it all the way down, airs over that. And if we're ever there, I'll go put you on top of this thing. But he hits the side of the chute and airs out of the tranny oval off of like a 40-foot cliff, and he landed right next to this tree that was like, he must have gone a good 90 to 100 feet distance on this air, and landed right next to this fucking tree. We saw the tracks there that day, and then someone told us about what he did. It was like superhuman shit, dude. Like,
you know what's funny is listening to these stories, I'm trying to figure out if you guys are an advertisement for mushroom use or if you're an advertisement for not mushroom use.
Oh, dude. I mean, if you're
and maybe it'll never be done again because people stopped using mushrooms because there's all sorts of other. They're great. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love them. But it's just hilarious.
No, I mean, Travis was telling me he just had all these same memories about Johan. He took him up to Alaska, and Johan wasn't the same. And Johan told him straight up, like, I was on acid or I was on mushrooms all the time. I don't do it anymore. He couldn't ride like he did.
Yeah, I mean, but he was
that 3,500 vertical feet in 35 seconds, and pinned on acid for sure.
What's that, TB6 or something? That's Carpe Diem,
that's the most insane line. I think that I don't know how it holds up today, but I'd say it's probably pretty comparable. It's timeless. That was scary to watch. You fall once, you die.
There's a lot of stuff from that era that still holds up today on like so many different levels.
Yeah, I love that whole era of snowboarding. And so and sorry to change the subject, if you guys have more on that point, just drop right in. But I'm trying to I want to figure out how your art starts really getting involved in Mervyn and Volcom and all that kind of thing. I want to hear
it was literally instant. So it was like that first Volcom garden painting, and then I was painting. It just like went one piece to the next. You just, as soon as you're like in the middle of it, you already don't like it because you think of something else. Just started snowballing like that. And I gave one painting to Jamie for just to give it to him, and they use it as a graphic. And then, oh hey, can you do more? And back then it was just like do what you want. It was like you didn't have to do comps or whatever. I just sent him stuff, and they weren't. It wasn't like a sales department driven process of picking the art. So,
even though your art became their branding, that was almost their brand.
Yeah.
Like when I see that stuff, I think of Volcom. I think
call them and tell them they should give me some retroactive royalty.
You got your 10% contract lined up.
There's never been a royalty. They always took care of me, definitely, but
yeah,
that's a whole other topic. It's just
it was a weird time. You didn't think of that kind of stuff.
Well, there was more money in snowboarding back then than ever, but it's just different. It's all relevant to like inflation and number of boards, but now it's just because everything is just fucked up, you know. But so then I did like one graphic one year, then it was like 2 graphics, then it was 4 graphics, then it was 6, to the point where I couldn't keep up with it, and other companies were calling me. I was doing whatever I could do for LibTech, and then I was doing stuff for Terje, for Burton. I did one board, and then the next year, oh, it's a line, can you do 5 or 6 boards? And then so it just became where it was almost like full-time work.
What when did you start doing Terje's boards?
Probably so.
What was your first Terje?
The first one, there was like he had the sword board, and then he had this other one. The first balance board was this one that was done by this old school surf artist named Bill Ogden. When we were in Laguna, he was down there a lot, and we were just like fascinated by this like old school hippie. That his shit's still amazing. But, so Terje got him to do this weird little graphic for him, like with a wave, and then I did the one the next year. That was the first balance board I did. I think that was probably right before I moved to Jackson. Yeah, another mushroom story. They gave me the weekend to do it. I was all like doing the graphic. I remember I stayed up all night on mushrooms, and I was watching these storms and everything. And I had this brilliant idea that I was going to fuck with Burton by putting lib in the sky on Terje's graphic. And you couldn't see it at all. You could see the B, but it said L-I. You couldn't see it until I pointed it out to you. And then I sent it off, and I was like, yeah. And then next day I was like, oh shit, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get sued by them. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to do another painting. That one doesn't work. I don't like it. And I sent them another one, and they used the second one, thank God. And then
why did you want to do that?
Just because I was high and I just didn't like Burton. I was very I was very loyal. I was like,
you liked their money, but you were loyal to LibTech, but you knew that. I see. Yeah.
I like Terje. I would do anything for a friend, but with that, it was just like there was always that thing between West Coast and East Coast, and I just had the very first day I got into snowboarding, I knew I didn't like Burton because of they put a patent on snowboarding, and I learned that. And I mean, against it now, but it was just like it was a bad vibe compared to everything else I've experienced. It was just different.
Yeah, they were corporate before most of the other companies, and it got out. Yeah.
And so there was no reason to hate. It's all the same thing, but hate travels faster somehow, you know?
Yeah. So you ended up in Jackson for a while, and then how did you end up in Czech Republic?
So I always heard about Czech from friends, but I think so that was like through Volcom, or you'd meet people, and there was this guy, everybody would talk about this guy Tomáš, and he has a skate contest in Czech Republic in Prague called Mystic Cup, and I was like, you gotta go, it's insane. They're telling me like these stories about just whatever. Couldn't really picture it in my head. Everyone was just saying that I need to go and you'll figure it out. So I met him, and he's like, oh, you should come over. I have the skate contest, and I want to do an art show there. I'm like, okay, I'll cruise over. And I was like, we'll make a tent, whatever, we'll put the stuff up. And I flew over in June of '97 after living in Gooch's house for the first winter, the one on the Village Road. And for 3.5 months, the first day, I was like, oh, this place is dirty. I don't like it. And then within, 3 or 4 more days, I was like, I'm never leaving.
Good dirty.
So
good dirty.
You're talking.
Dirty, yeah.
You're talking 97, so that was only
97.
3 years after they broke from communism.
No, they broke from communism in '89, but it was still
in 89. That's right. Okay.
yeah.
So, but you could still.
It was still the old school way.
So paint a
Blue
picture.
jeans and Coca-Cola.
Paint
It
a
was,
picture for what that place was like.
It was cheap as fuck. It was super fun and free. Like you could just walk around. You would just walk past cops smoking a joint. No big deal. If you like went into a restaurant to have a dinner, nice dinner, whatever. If you could roll a joint at the table, like burn a hashish, and they'd be like, oh, and they bring you a tray instead of doing it on the table. Like, okay, cool. And you'd go out and just like splurge, wine, whatever. You just eat. It was like free. Felt like it would be like $20 for the ever had.
Yeah,
beer was cheap.
I
Beer
love
still
that.
probably is. Beer is cheaper than water.
Yeah,
it was just
cheap.
It was my first time in Europe too. So
and beautiful women.
Oh
beautiful women, right?
Yeah, ridiculous.
3 years after its independence was your first trip to Europe. That just kind of
it was more after. It was more than that.
Okay.
And that first time I went, I was there for 3.5 months. I think we went to France. Traveled to Marseille and to Hasagor and Biarritz. And other than that, I don't think I really left much. I just was there, like first night straight into club scene. Like, holy shit, what's this? Like hundreds of the hottest girls you've ever seen. Just like it was like going to college without having to go to school because we didn't have that. I did. There was a high school.
Way cheaper.
Way cheaper. And so I never had those social experiences of like being that real kind of how you interact with other people in a big city or whatever. So it was just like it just kind of woke up all these different just the thought patterns and just whatever. It just completely turned me up inside out.
You saw a new side of yourself.
Yeah, of what the world is too. Because as an American over there, you realize any travel, but you go to Europe for the first time, you realize your place in the world. You realize how ancient things are and how America fits into the whole puzzle.
Yeah, and then you married a Czech girl.
Yeah, for basically that time frame is even more of a blur, but from 97 till 2005, I was going back and forth. I lived there probably 5 years. No, yeah, 2007, 2000. So 2006, I went over there till 2008. So yeah, from 97, 98 till 2008. In that 10 years, I lived there on and off, probably for 5 years. Wow. 2 years being the longest stay. Yeah.
And so I came out and lived with you was that 2000?
That was 2000 because I had just gotten staff and had to go back to LA. Remember? Yeah,
that's right.
We went to Indo. I got sick. We came back. I had to split to go make money. You came and shared that flat with Teresa. And
but you were there for a long time. You
there for the beginning of it. I was only there for like a month before I left, or 2 months.
Okay, so basically, Andrew, Mikey, he kind of broke open a lot of doors in Prague. Like he already had this whole network of homies and all this stuff. So when I came out, he just kind of like opened all those doors. And now I go out there all the time to visit these guys. Yeah. Like I have family out there that Mikey introduced me to. And
well, those doors all got opened to me by snowboarding too, because here we are, this always stupid American, but oh fuck, he can snowboard pretty good,
Yeah, because they were all just getting into it. Like all our friends out there were like, they were I mean, they still are beginners, but they were super beginners back then.
That was the way I kind of established that I was worth something, basically.
Yeah, and that's how it is there. Because I remember when I came out, our buddy Modric would introduce me to everybody like, oh, he's pro snowboarder from the US. Like I couldn't just be Willie, you had to have some kind of fucking label on you, and that's what even though I went there to go to film school, which never happened, but because we just fucking ended up taking ecstasy and partying the whole time.
It's nice you gave mushrooms a break for a minute.
I really wanted to talk about this trip. So this winter that I'm out there, we all decide to go to Slovakia for Christmas.
Oh God, dude, I tell the story all the time still.
So Gooch comes out there, and I'd only been there a couple months maybe. So I was really excited for Gooch to come out because he was a total like virgin to Czech Republic. So I was psyched on his new energy and like showing him the shit that I had learned being there a couple of months, whatever. So Gooch comes out. We get this huge crew and we drive to Slovakia. And this is a fucking novel just by itself, this whole trip.
Oh, so fun.
But to kind of gist it up, we had this game where we basically did ecstasy all day, first of all. And
go snowboarding.
And we had this rental car. And basically every time we'd stop at a gas station, everybody in the car, we're talking like 8 people in this tiny, eco car or
sounds like snowboarding. Yeah.
Whatever. So we throw everybody on the hood of the car and on the roof of the car and just at a regular gas station. And I'm driving, get a 50-yard head start and just pin it across the parking lot into the snowbank and send everybody into the fucking snow. And we would do that, as well as we had this rule where if you were sitting shotgun, you were allowed to pull the e-brake on the driver anytime you wanted to. So we would be driving 60 miles an hour, icy road, 4-lane highway, and we would pull the e-brake and spin through the traffic into the snowbank. And then we'd have to get the car unstuck. But looking back on those days, man, I feel like we have this bond because I can't believe that we survived those days.
There was so much snow though. I didn't think anything was happening. It was just it was definitely felt fake. Yeah. We were invincible.
But looking back on it now, that was some of the dumbest shit I've ever done in my life. Oh,
absolutely.
By far.
Absolutely. You guys had driven. We took a train in, Brian and Teresa and I. But yeah, they had already got this whole thing going where they were just driving like maniacs. So we're like, okay, whatever, it looks fun. We just went for it.
We were out of control, dude, on that trip. And so basically, we go to this massive outdoor hot springs one night, and we're fucking out of our minds. We shouldn't even be in public at all.
Let alone driving and drinking and driving and everything else. It just felt like there was no rules. There was
no rules, and we felt really invincible back then. And so we're leaving this hot springs. We caused all sorts of trouble there. Mikey decides to not put his shoes on. It's full winter time. Walks out to the car barefooted, karate kicks the side view mirror off of the
Did I do that for real?
Yeah, you karate kick the mirror. This rental car is all under my name. Mikey kicks the mirror off. And then we end up going somewhere. We go to some bar and then we park or whatever. And as we're going to the bar, Mikey kicks the other mirror off. So the rental car has no.
You guys were your own worst enemies, for crying out loud.
We had no.
We were just trying to make each other laugh, is what it was.
That's what it was. We were doing the most fucked up shit to make each other laugh. And so we walked to this bar, and I was taking all these photos at the time. I've got these 35 millimeter prints of Mikey with his feet barefooted at this bar up on one of those old school gas furnaces, trying to get he basically gave himself frostbite. and then what was the other thing? Anyway, so at the end of that trip, after I remember one day we were driving over this bridge, and it kind of warmed up, so it was just piles of slush everywhere. And I just there's 2 old ladies walking across the bridge on skinniest sidewalk, they had no room to walk. And everyone's just don't do it, Willie, don't do it, Willie. And I was just veered over and just sprayed these old ladies. I mean, I'm not proud of it. Obviously,
you're a real prick.
That was over the line.
I mean, I crossed it. I'm not condoning that. I'm not proud of myself. I have paid for it, or I will pay for it. But anyway, I was trying to make you guys laugh. Anyway, we do all this terrible shit the whole time we're in fucking Slovakia. And the last night we're there, we're in a gas station, and the cops pull us over.
For not having our seatbelts on.
For not having our seatbelts on. And we're laughing so hard because they're if you would have seen what we had done this past week, we would have been getting hung in the town square.
Absolutely.
Probably. Yeah.
So they ended up writing us. I have a photo of it of 48 infractions. And they basically just what's the word?
It's full on. It's extortion.
Extortion. Yeah. We had to give up all of our cash and all this shit, but we got out of it.
Super cheap. It was like $5 or $6 each.
I was gonna say a 4-pack of vodka that should have covered that.
The very first night I was ever in Prague, that guy Tomasz picked me up from the airport, went straight to partying. We end up at an after party. It's 9 o'clock the next morning, whatever. Just out of our fucking trees. And he's like, you drive. I'm like, dude, I've never driven in Europe. He's like, no, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, but he's like, it's fine. He's like, I've got lots of money on me. If we get pulled over, I'll just tell him that you weren't drinking on checks while you're on a plane. And if that doesn't work, we'll just pay him.
Yeah. You learned how to bribe. That's the most important lesson you can learn in a foreign country.
Yeah, but it's not like that now that it's EU. But back in the day, it was like you could do anything because you just pay him. Yeah, because a little bit of money is a lot of money back then. Hey? I mean, 5,000 crowns would probably be like $200 would be like like wow, you did something gnarly. Yeah. You didn't wear your seatbelt. Yeah.
Did you when you say that you already heard about Czech Republic, was that from Dan Paterka?
Well, yeah, Dan, because he's first generation Czech for sure. I heard from Dan, but he was always so quiet about it. He just, the way Dan is. Back before he like became the guy he is now, he was really chill. Super soft spoken, and he didn't. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want us all together, but it was more of like for him, Drunkheart, and for Matt Donahue, those three, they would travel there all the time. It was kind of like a pilgrimage to them, be like artsy and take black and white photos and all that shit.
Jump off the bridges into the Vltava River that's filled with like dead bodies and fucking.
They loved it for the same reasons, though. It was free and it was like Dan's dad obviously had them set up there, and he used to go there during communism when there was tanks on the runway.
Yeah, Czech's got amazing. Andrew, if you should.
I want to go. Yeah,
you
had me at hello.
There's just didn't get destroyed in World War II too. The most important ones,
There's just a lot of history there. Like, our friends there, they were under Russian communism or Russian rule till they were like 13,
89.
So it's like they turned 18 and moved out, and that's like the funnest time in the world.
Well,
I love that.
The crazy
to the whole country.
It was a group of students that started the Velvet Revolution. They're just like. They're like in 89 after this shit happened, like they beat up these students in a protest, and then the whole fucking town is just like, we're gonna revolt, and it's like, okay, let's see if the Russians if they send the tanks again, and they didn't. They're like, okay, cool, walls down, we're done.
Well, like something like
Russians learned a lesson.
Something like 500,000 people came from Czech Republic to Prague to protest. And like ended up the Russians were just like, they don't want us. And at the same time, that whole Eastern. What was that thing called? Not the Eastern Bloc, but the
Eastern Bloc. Yeah, the Berlin Wall fell.
Well, that
Curtain.
Administration, the Iron Curtain, like that whole thing was falling apart at the same time. It was like really
falling apart.
Yeah, what was that? That was in like 92 is when the Berlin Wall came down. 93.
I can't remember exactly. I thought it was really close to the Velvet Revolution. Really in that same time frame. Somehow in my mind, I thought that the Berlin Wall was first, but
it's crazy. Reagan. It's crazy to think
it might have already fallen, and that was the symbolic tearing down of the wall to say.
I mean, the Czechs really got after it, though. I've heard stories of friends were telling stories like older guys that a little bit even older than me were saying like they're like blowing up ambulances, punching cops, just whatever to fuck with the state.
Yeah, to just say weren't a lot of those kids on acid during that time.
That's all. So there's a really good the really good chemist came from Czech. They made pervitin, which is speed. And they made acid because that's all they had access to was chemistry.
So they're on acid and speed, just fucking the Russians. That's so.
And they had a lot of educated scientists and chemists as well, didn't they?
A lot of them left, but a lot of them got back into it after they were allowed to, because the communist state was really scared of anybody that was smart, so they either locked them up or turned them into a janitor, basically.
It's crazy that our friends there, their parents went through two different, they were occupied twice, once by the Nazis, and then they finally got free. And then not even that long later,
20-something years,
the fucking Russians come and take over. Like, can you imagine that? Like, I mean, it makes, it's like we have coronavirus or whatever, and it's like we're in the States and people are such little fucking bitches about it. And it's like you have these people that we know in Czech Republic that went through two fucking dictatorships to like.
Yeah, it'd be like having 20 years of Trump, and then I don't know. Let's see, some sort of semi-freedom. You have like another shitty ruler for 20 years, and then you get Donald Trump Jr. comes back for another 25 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but
we're lucky.
But after that Velvet Revolution, doesn't it kind of feel like the Czechs were just like, that ain't happening again? Like, we're fucking over this shit. It seems like the art flourished, the music scene, the drug scene. Like, I mean,
well, yeah, capitalism definitely set in, you know. But there's still in Eastern Europe right now. There's a rise of fascism again, right wing. I mean, what you're seeing in America, you're seeing across the board, everywhere. For whatever reason, authoritarianism is it's on the rise. It gets
makes more money
and then it pops up. It gets defeated and it pops up. You know, it's just, you know, there's a lot of, it's just because the world is in turmoil, like with you know, Middle Eastern states and all the refugees that are coming from everywhere. And I don't know, I just think that a lot of people can't handle the idea of a complete melting pot worldwide.
Yeah, which is fucking stupid, because it's like, you know, go interracial, and then we won't have racism anymore if everyone just starts breeding together.
It's definitely evil white people.
It is
included.
Yeah, it is. Well, you're always going to have those people that want to rise to power, you know, those people that like, you know, it's like, I honestly think we should have a limit on like wealth. Like, you don't need $100 billion or whatever fucking Bezos is worth. Like, we shouldn't have a guy like Jeff Bezos, you know.
Over the years, it went from 90% tax to whatever it is, 25 now, you know, in the last, say, 70 years. Back in the day, the richest people would pay 90% of their wealth out to the state to help everyone else.
Yeah.
And now they don't even pay taxes.
No. And we don't need people that are getting that fucking rich, dude. It's like, how many generations do you need to take care of? Do you need like 100 generations to not have to get a job ever?
Yeah, or it's crazy.
Or like, but 3 or 5.
The Czechs show that you can. I think it's just constantly. It's going to evolve. It's going to. I don't know. You wouldn't think that the same thing could happen in America, but we came pretty close. And I think everybody needs to be on their toes. That it's, you know, like anything's possible always.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's gonna, you know, I think you gotta, just like a night and day and black and white. You've got to have the bad to realize how good the good is. You know.
Yeah, totally. It's a roller coaster. Slow ups. Fun downs.
But there's also those countries that have never had peace. They just go from one fucking horrible problem to the next, you know. Those whatever.
Well, Russians are like that. They're just, but anyway, let's we could solve the world's problems in a few hours here.
We could do it.
Yeah, that's the topic. And let's move into stage 3 of Mike.
So what happens after?
When did the art and when did you kind of move to Hawaii and not quit snowboarding, but just kind of that took a back burner?
I guess.
Wait, but there's a step before there, because you moved back to LA. You lived in downtown LA after Prague.
After I was like, I bounced around. It's pretty much every 3 to 5 years I'll move completely up and restart 100%. And like, so, you know, pursuing, obviously, I think in like around that time, 98, 99, I decided like I wasn't going to take money from somewhere anymore. I was just like, I'm going to be an artist, just do that. So I moved from Jackson down to LA. This is before 2000 because I was there for New Year's Eve.
Wait. Hold on 1 second. Sorry to interrupt you. You ended up back in Jackson, and then you and Travis started A-Symbol.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. I would always go LA, Prague, Jackson, LA, Prague, Jackson. Jackson, I've lived at 2 times, exactly 10 years apart both times, and exactly for 5 years I was there each time.
Whoa.
So if I come back to Jackson, it'll be 2023 to 2028. But yeah, so
got it mapped.
So LA was like where I would go to try to figure out what I was going to do in art or whatever. I would go there because that just seemed like the thing to do. That was the desire at that time. And then I would get just whatever, completely LA discouraged like I did this last time again, and be there for a couple of years. And then I need to rehab myself and just get my brain back in line and, you know, whatever. And then I go to Prague, and Prague wasn't really, it makes it sound like it was a lot of partying, but it was more of just like actually relax. Like,
yeah.
Because when I was there, all I did was work. I mean, I would work is every second of the day I was doing something art wise. So yeah, I was like there I left Jackson. I remember after coming back from Europe, I went there and it was October. I got back from that whole summer. I didn't paint for 2 years after I left Europe because I was so spun out by like, am I an artist? What is art? What am I even doing? Some French dude told me that I wasn't a painter, that I was a cartoonist, and I tripped the fuck out on that. So I just kind of doing things, but not really being an artist. I didn't know what I was, but I was in LA trying to figure things out. I left, I remember in October thinking, I'm just going down there to make some money. I'll be back this winter. And I didn't come back for 9 years, but I was in LA, same thing happened, went to Czech, met my girl, then I was back and forth to Czech for years, back to LA. In a whirlwind, and then 2006 I went to Prague for a couple months, had my place in LA, and I stayed for 2 years. And 2007 Travis had hit me up to go. In 2000, during that, before I left, actually, this is where it comes together again, because I felt completely irrelevant in snowboarding. I wasn't really doing anything other than a random lib tech graphic here and there. I wasn't really even riding. And Travis hit me up because he knew of me from when he was a kid, when he was living in Jackson, was interested in my art and asked me to do his second pro model. Pretty much turns out to be it seems more like the first. It was that crazy yellow painting, the one like everyone thinks it's a butthole in the middle, but it's like a lips and tongues, you know, the fighting monkeys and all that stuff.
We had that. Wasn't that painting sitting in our living room in Prague? Wasn't that sitting right above the couch?
No, that was one of the that one speaker piece. There's a couple of big pieces there, and those ones were from another art show in Prague. Yeah, okay. But that piece I did in 2005 and sent it to LibTech right before I moved to Prague. And I said I was going to be there for a couple of months, and I ended up staying. David talked me into staying, and I stayed for 2 years. But in 2007, he hit me up to go, oh, can we do another graphic? I want to send you to New Zealand. So I flew to New Zealand, super stoked to ride again, rode powder on helicopters with him and John and Mark Landvik. And I was like, I kind of like snowboarding. I'm still good at it. It sounds fun, you know? So went back to Prague, not knowing what I was going to do. And somehow, I think Mark took me to Wyoming in 2008, and we ended up being there the same time that they did the first natural selection. Was it natural selection?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. You and Mark and Eva flew in.
We flew in, and it was just like it had been in '98 when I left. Yeah. It was like that good. It was just dumping.
Was that the first? In my life. Was that the first natural selection, or was it the first one at Jackson?
It was the very first one.
It was the Craig's second day, Dick's first day, and it was just like it just brought all that shit back, like all the things that made me happy in life, and I realized how much it was awesome. Not being connected to it anymore, not just being really not being dependent on happiness through completely synthetic things, you know.
Yeah,
like just whatever city vibes, and it's important for growth and to kind of like figure out who you are, what you want to do, what you're trying to say, but it's not really good for the soul sometimes when you're like just completely grinding all the time. And so like burn the candle on both ends.
Yeah, it's never good for the soul. It's good for the pocketbook and the
good for the
ambition.
Good for the grit, basically. But
but probably not for your creativity, right, Mike? Did you find it was affected?
Yeah, creativity and pain have been kind of linked together. You know, that's kind of the easiest way as a self-taught artist to get something out of yourself that's other than just nice colors. So it all worked out. It always works out. But through in that time, there was some moments when I realized what it was, where it came from, how to do it. Even though I still feel completely naive sometimes, I understand how to tap into it, and I think I have a pretty good understanding of what great art is, where good art comes from. But
when did that hit for you?
It just would hit in spurts. I mean, definitely started happening after Europe, after that hiatus, when I was living in LA. Just getting my brain turned in different directions. Also, Peterka was he grew up in LA and was there more often, and he was pretty intellectual compared to all the snowboarders I had always hung out with. There wasn't any talk of art or he would just throw words at me, and sometimes I'd have to like look it up, and then basically he was telling me I was crazy the whole time, but he would give me words that would make me think in certain ways, and he'd trip out because he'd see it immediately go into some sort of art the next day. And then he would just kind of feed me little things here and there. So he was a big part of that too. But it was just through pain and through like, just from just being fucked up all the time, dealing with the flip side of all those like party nights in Prague or whatever. You get there's definitely a an opposite and equal reaction, you know.
Mike, I got a question for you because this like baffles me. Do you ever, with artists, like my main photographer growing up was an artist. He was really, he was established artist, and then he went into photography, and snowboarding kind of just brought him in more. But I gained so much from working with him, and I don't even know if he knows that. But did you have riders around you that could see, kind of could take from your creative and apply it to their, or were they too young?
I think.
What do you think about that?
I think probably there's. I know there's a lot of people that told me they kind of started doing art, or they definitely look at things creatively differently because of seeing what I was doing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's how I got it. I got it from Jamie and from everyone around me. So I think it's inevitable. Yeah.
And so they must have also got it from you too. And everybody influences each other in the group, whether it's competitive or whether it's creative.
It's crazy how we're so influenced, and then those like during those formative years, we take so much in and make it a part of ourselves. You don't realize it's happening, but you're a complete sponge for a certain amount of years. And I'm like tripping out on when does that stop, because it's so much harder to like absorb a new style or a new habit or something so easily as back in the day. There's got to be, I'm sure there's science on it, on how during those years there's a time frame when you just completely are like clay. I know it's from very young till sometime. It's got to be in the mid-20s, when you stop absorbing. But I think that's the whole trick, is like trying to figure out how to always continue learning. Keep yourself open to it.
And in snowboarding, it's so creative. Because it wasn't owned by the corporations for a long time, and it was, everyone didn't want it at their heels, so we had to be a little bit more creative, and we created our own film industry and our own magazines. All totally. You said, 20-year-olds were doing this. It was so different than all of the other sports that are out there.
Yeah, it's
maybe
like
not skateboarding and. Yeah, it was Lord of the Flies. So
we were really lucky that there was just enough people that would influence us. Like having met Aria Markopoulos was a big deal, and just I don't know, small things that made big differences, like little influences. It's really crazy to think how if there wasn't a few people at that time, everything would be different. If there wasn't even a couple conversations that I had, or just it's just like the whole balance of everything that exists now is based on. Oh, there's a cat. So
I just saw a tiger behind you. There's also a tiger.
Yeah, he just threw my stuff. He's gnarly. This is Ron. He was a rescue. He's like a little runt that we found out of the house. He's gonna die. We brought him back to life. Now he's like king of the house.
Is that Ron? Is that Ron Jeremy?
We had three of them.
He's hairy enough.
He's like a little. He's a little badass, but
he stays away from the whippet.
Hey, Mike.
All the time. He bites me and all sorts of stuff.
What you're talking about, being a sponge in those years, like I kind of feel like, when you're younger and you don't really know who the fuck you are, and you're kind of just like, you take pieces of people, you're like, I like how, you might like somebody's like style, the way they dress, but then you like that this guy's into art. And then, like even, look at, reading pro skater interviews and Thrasher and stuff. And, obviously like you and Jamie Lynn and all these dudes were like major influences on me before I even met you guys,
It's almost impossible not to emulate people.
Yeah.
Nobody's truly original.
But it's like you emulate all your influences on your way up, and then eventually when you find your own sound or your own look or your own style, it's like you finally reach the spot where you made the perfect fucking salad of all of your influences, and it's like when you listen to somebody play music, it's like you can listen to it and pick out the music that they grew up listening to. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why people who go to school for almost anything, but especially the creative stuff, they're they really pick the school based on the professors. You know, that's why people go to CalArts for the artists that they have there. You know, that's the thing, is you're so influenced at those times that you become the people that you learn from.
Exactly. But then eventually you become your own person. Well, and by that time, like, you're influencing other people, you know?
When you saw the first videos you saw in snowboarding, you tried to emulate those tricks, you know? All the videos that I saw, I tried to be that good. And then, oh, shit, I'm riding with those guys now. And then you realize you're making a movie, and then people are taking from there. So it's just like, you know, leapfrogging all the time.
Yeah. Well, dare I say that I see a little bit of your art in Gucci's art and also in Jamie Lynn's art. And I see you guys, you can see that you drew inspiration from each other. You know what I mean? I haven't seen all of your stuff or all of their stuff, but when I see like Brian's really active right now in the art world, which is really so cool.
He's doing that. Yeah. That's really, I mean, it's great that he's making money of it. You know, luckily Jackson is and his role in snowboarding has given him a really nice platform. Perfect. People really love it. I don't know.
Everybody wants all your guys' art, man. Like I'm surprised. I mean, you said you're commissioning some stuff out right now, but like, how does one get a hold of you if they want to give you their money and have you make them a painting? Like, will you just accept?
I do.
Anything?
I've got a website. I mean, I don't get too many inquiries. I think either people think I'm really expensive or I'm not available for the most part if they were going to ask. I think the business I've been getting is only through people sending me direct messages on Instagram, and you know, here and there. And I forget that. Oh yeah, you got to check it sometimes because there's those requests. I'm like, oh, there's like 4 requests, and then usually there'll be 1 or 2 things in there. I just met a guy over here, super like amazing dude, new friend of mine over here. And he just like out of the blue, like, hey, can we talk about, I want to get a painting of I've always wanted one. He became like a super good friend. But other than that, like I was telling Willie the other day, like I haven't got an email that's not spam for, I don't even know how long. It's like ridiculous. Like I feel like I pretty much just moved to a rock in the middle of the ocean.
I mean, you literally did.
I really have an allergy with the phone. I'd rather text, you know. I have an allergy with the phone. I'm not good with emails. I don't know. I get really weird about it. And it sucks because I want to be successful, but I don't want to do the basic things that you need to do sometimes to be successful. Plus I just, I really love it when someone gives me a big challenge. That was what happened with A-Symbol, and I get that with commissions. The best thing I've done commission-wise is that piece I did for Willie. That's kind of the only, like, I mean, I've done actually a bunch of cool stuff.
The Whalen one. The Buffalo one is insane too, man. Like,
yeah. It's just so much different when you're working towards, when you're like, okay, I've got this amount of time. When you're working for a show, like when I had a gallery owner that backed me and managed me and everything, it's just a different thing, you know. It's like you're starting a business every time you're going to have a show. You got immense planning, huge linear timeline to put together. You've got to know what you're going to say. You got to know how to do it. You got to do it not on time, but it's got to be done early. It's just different. It's totally
deadlines suck, but
a thought process.
They need to be there,
and you build yourself as an artist so much more complete when you're doing that. But you need to have a traditional gallery relationship where they know you, they trust you, they come, they do a studio visit well before you're going to have your show. All the paintings are already bought at a certain price, and then the gallery makes their money on top of what they bought them for. But if you're just going to do it where you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to work for 8 months and I'm here, let's take a gamble, let's have a show, especially if you do it on the amateur level where people have like a one-night show, you know, there's just no way to pull it off. That's why the art world is so contained like that it's all regulated, where you pretty much don't get in unless you have the right gallery backing you, the right management. That's just how it is, you know. And you're giving 50%, which is more like 70%, because they're not paying for materials and all your expenses. You're just like, here you go.
They got to keep you poor so you can make good art.
Or
if you make too much money,
yeah, but usually, so that's the thing about, once I got to the point where I was getting really close to what I always pictured was the dream. I realized I fucked up. I realized that there's steps that I missed, the things that I didn't learn that were so vital to being able to do it, you know? There's just a part of the art world that has to do with academia. Where did you go to school? Oh, who did you study under? Or it's, you don't really have too many self-taught, like, you just don't have it. You don't have like self-taught prodigies that are just, blowing up. It's just kind of not how it works. It's like literally like, especially when it gets to the level of like auctions and everything, that's like stock market style. It's an unregulated industry that like makes insane amounts of money based on a few people doing everything behind the scenes.
It's kind of sick though, no? Like, I
It
mean,
is. No, I mean, it's just that it's just so not what I. Well, I didn't know what I pictured because I'm so fucking ignorant. You know, I just was like, oh, it'll all work out. You know, this is whatever. Just be good at what you do. But there's so much more.
Business of art.
There's a business, but like when you go to art school, you learn foundation studies, of course, on how to do your craft. But you also go do critical thinking, and you have to deal with these huge, just tons of like critiques where your peer group is ripping you apart, and then you have to explain it. And that all teaches you how to actually speak about your work and how to, you know, to make it be something, not just like fucking completely arbitrary scribble.
Yeah.
Like great art comes from a lot of things, man. You have to know what you're saying. There has to be a context for it. You know, it can't just be like a pretty picture or like, oh, this guy does these trees really nice, or he does mountains, you know? So you can either get that through like cathartic work by going through pain and just having to do it. Like, you know, that's why Van Gogh, because he was so tortured, you know, that's, even though they're pretty pictures, that's what's behind that. Or like in my case, where the first real cathartic work I did out of pain, but it was like, it just opened up shit I needed to get it out. And that's what turned that on, you know. There's only been a few times where I really got the whole, there was a short period where I really got the whole thing to come together really well. And then it was just one or two missteps. And you know, like I said, you take the gamble where you do all that work. For the first time I didn't sell the stuff from the show, I was like, holy shit, how am I going to pay rent? And I just invested all my time and money in that. Like, I'm kind of fucked. And I was just like, you know, if I'm going to be doing this, I know I'm going to be doing this 100-hour weeks for another, 10, 15 years to maybe get there. Like, the stress level on me, and it wasn't fun anymore. It's just not fun. You know?
I mean, how do you even become successful as an artist? It's like, are you Andy Warhol having people mass produce your art for you?
It's timing. It's just, it's so much. It's like,
play the game is a good way to.
You gotta have something special. You gotta be unique. You gotta have a voice. You gotta be connected to the right people. You gotta play the game. You gotta do the fairs. You gotta sell all the time. You gotta work your way through all of that. You gotta be a fucking hipster, whatever artist guy. That
probably have to have a thick skin too.
When I was in LA and Carl was pushing me to, you know, like really, I mean, that's what I thought I wanted. You know, I'm like, I don't want to go to art fairs because it's like the contemporary art world. I was like, I don't want to go. I don't want to be influenced by that shit. He's like, no, you have to go. I went there with him and I was walking around going, fuck this and fuck these people. I was just like, what did I do? Like, this is what I've been working for. These people to try to define me to be successful or not. Like, I could care less.
Hey, what's that clicking sound? Is that happening on?
I'm just nervous, so I'm like, I've got the AirPod thing. I'm all, ding.
Oh yeah. Maybe don't do that.
Maybe don't.
I just kidding. Sorry, but keep going.
I mean, like clenching my fist, like thinking of those times right there.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah. So yeah, basically, if you want to know how I got to Hawaii, is because when I came back from a trip here in summer of 2015, and I went back to LA to, you know, keep going with that and work. I went to meet my buddy Carl, who was representing me. He's a super good friend, like a brother, but he's like, oh, we took you off the roster. And I was like, so that means that I'm not anymore? And I was like, yeah, anyway, I think I'm going to move to Hawaii. So I just, like, in that year, I was like, I got to figure shit out. I think I'll go back to Hawaii. I wasn't really sure, but I kind of like the idea of not having to stress about that, even though I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't want to do that anymore.
It was like good riddance, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, why Hawaii? It was fresh.
So yeah, it was like I did a capsule collection for Volcom. Thank God that like got me over here. Mm-hmm. So they ended like right when it released in Hawaii. One of the oldest guys from Volcom, one of the original guys, does Volcom Hawaii rep over here, Clint Moncada. I haven't talked to him since like, I'm seriously, like 92 or 93. He was like, hey, I want to fly you to Hawaii to promote your line. So you want to come out here? I was like, oh, for sure. So we had like 5 little shop dates that we had to go to. And I was supposed to be here for 9 days. And the third day, he took me out to the North Shore, to the Pipe House. And it was just like, he's like, hey, you want to do a mural here? I was like, on the fucking demo, you're just like, holy shit, this is the Pipeline House. I'm like staying here. Just was magic. So I did a mural real quick. We went to Kauai to do the last thing. He's like, you've got a couple days to kill. And I'm like, I want to go back out there. He's like, yeah, fine, go hang out there. So I was kind of staying, and Ty Van Dyke, who was one of the pro surfers from my era of snowboarding for them, was like, you can stay in my room upstairs if you want. I was like, really? I was like, all right, so I'm gonna do that. And I stuck around for 9 weeks.
Wow.
Coincidentally, part of the thing that really kept me there too was that I had met a girl the second night I had come there, because one of those 5 stops was at Turtle Bay, and that's why we were out here. Why I actually stayed at the Pipe House. So I met her, and it was like a reason to hang around. And we ended up having like little summer romance and everything. It wasn't the reason why I came back, but it was like it was nice to know that there's this awesome woman that was here, and she was going to be here. And it was definitely one of the comfort factors of like, I think I could
left
live in
good
Hawaii.
energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Right on.
It just felt right. But during that time in that summer, like I had started like surfing a little bit. Summertime, there's not really waves, but just like whatever, was doing it. I was going out, and I was there's a couple of experiences that really made me like, hey, maybe I want to learn how to surf again, because back in the very beginning of Volcom, it was like everybody surfed. They were like pro surfers. I would go like trestles or whatever, but I never really got hooked on it because I didn't really care as much. I wanted to, as a snowboarder. But when I went back to LA after that summer was over, after having all of that happen, Pete Sari told me, just remember that a good day of surfing can feel like a powder day. He's like, it can just fix everything. So I was like, I'm just going to keep surfing. I got like a shitty soft top, and I would just like go surf all the time. And it started to be like, I was like 5, 6, 7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. It was like the thing that bonded me to something other than like where I felt completely disconnected of being in LA with these people I just didn't give a fuck about, like trying to be cool because you make these weird things put them on walls. Doesn't really make sense to me anymore. Like that's, like coming over here, before the revelation was like, I saw people like Nathan Fletcher and all these friends that I had seen and really respected. They were just like living here. And I was like, like just was tripping out on how heavy everybody was, how the accomplishments that they had made just from pursuing what they were pursuing and like keeping at it and being passionate about it. And there's a real big thing about respect over here. And I really like the feeling of a respect-based culture because, especially in LA, like people are just horrible. Everybody's just like out for themselves. Like from the driving to like the, meeting people and just the bullshit that you get all the time. It was so fake compared to something so real. So it was just kind of inevitable that I needed to change, and it just worked out perfectly. So had surfed and it kept going, started building boards, just was like immersed in like something that had to do that kind of connected me. It made me feel like I was still living a little bit of the Hawaiian summer. And then the girl Vanessa called me, the girl I was speaking of, my current girlfriend for 3 or 4 years now. And she's like, oh, there's a little house here if you want. She's like, you have to be here in like 3 weeks. And I was like, all right. And just gave notice and just started packing basically.
I love it.
And that was the end of September 2016. Yeah.
Wow. And you feel good? You feel like you're at home right now?
Yeah, now finally. But it was the first couple of years were happy. Like it's not easy to live here. I tried to avoid reading those things. You'd see like YouTube videos. Why 10 things to know before you move to Hawaii? Like fuck that. I don't want to know. I'm gonna pull it off. But yeah, it was difficult. Like just like finding stable housing because I made a couple of small miscalculations, just being overly optimistic that things will work out. Had to move now because I got kicked out, but I had a dog and there was just no way to stay with a dog. And he had come over after me. So I was in limbo, homeless, almost like, within the first 4 months. And I was like, this really sucks. Not homeless, but I was like, not to have the stability, like a place to work and just everything was just, and then I don't know, also getting paid overseas was a little bit hard again. Just didn't have like when I was in LA. So there's always money and then just kind of things were just getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And I just had to like figure it out, but it wasn't good feeling. So I had kind of even stopped surfing at that point. Like there was, I got scared a few times. I got my ass fucking handed to me, to tell you the truth. And I was like, I don't think I should be doing this. I think I'm gonna drown if I keep doing this. Maybe I underestimated the whole situation. Maybe you're not supposed to. Maybe it's completely foolish to come out here and try to pull this off and learn how to surf here. Maybe you're just stupid. So I just gave into that whole thing of like, I was a little bit depressed. Things weren't working out. It wasn't with Vanessa. I was just like, whatever, trying to just get by. And it was shitty for a little bit. Even though you're in paradise, it actually makes it worse because you're like, fuck, if I move over here and I can't be happy here, then what's wrong with me? Like, why are things going right? So anyway, long story short, things started to get better, I just like committed to doing jujitsu and like getting healthy, just everything I could do to make myself feel good with doing yoga, anything. And then that turned into like her seeing that and wanting to be with me. And that just kind of started to give me more balance. And then just in the last year since, well, we moved in together about a year and a half ago. And since COVID hit, and I had time on my hands, I just was like able to build stuff. And I built a surfboard for her and then started building for myself. And I've just been nonstop again, kind of back on that pursuit.
Cool. That's amazing.
But it's good because that whole thing of just having that one piece of like body, mind, and spirit, getting back to having that balance, that's made me so much better in my mental state to be able to have creativity. Sure, if I'm definitely not gonna pursue things the way I was, but I think there's no way for me not to be creative. I just wish there was a way that I didn't have to depend on it for financial security, you know.
And I think you just spoke to this point, but you don't necessarily need to be hard done by to be painting well either.
Oh yeah, that's one bullshit. Of the things. Like it still works. I made a mistake, like breaking my own heart on purpose. You know, like creating shitty situations for myself so that I could work from it. There's a lot of people over here that are like, and heavies too, that are really into snowboarding. I think Ian Walsh probably turned people onto it, but my neighbor, he's going to Jackson next week, and you know, like he's like old school pro surfer and grew up on the North Shore. That's what he lives for. That's all. He cares about.
Are you linking him up with anybody?
I want to hook him up. I was going to talk to you about that afterwards because there's a few things I want to get some info for him. He's coming out with his son.
Oh, perfect.
His son's like his son's probably in his 20s. He's in the Navy. I mean, dude, Phil is a badass. Like I was driving past Sunset Beach not too long ago on a huge morning, like just tripping out how big these waves were, and it was just giant barrels across the whole beach. Never seen that happen before. And like cathedral. I'm talking like triple overhead barrels, and I see right as I'm driving by, I get a glimpse of this dude. And I was like, it was like watching a surf movie as I'm driving by. It pulls out, like, just insane. Pulls in, comes out, and I was like, I don't want to do that someday. And I have this flash in my head of like seeing the board and seeing him. And then I look at the spot, it's too big. I come home, and it was fucking Phil. He's got that same board, and he's on the lawn in front of me. I was like, dude, did you just get a wave at sunset? I was like, you know, like, did you get a right that was like a couple good second barrels? He's like, yeah, that was one of my better waves.
That's sick.
It's like I was having to ask him, how do you deal with them? Because that's one of the things that I'll never have. It kind of bums me out. It's like that that shit you get from growing up in it that we have in summer and that people can't get, the muscle memory stuff.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. Don't connect art with pain. Yeah, but it's a totally different type of work. You know, I mean, I paint better than I think I ever painted now, but it's not the same kind of thought process. You know?
Well, you're older now. You're more mature. You have more wisdom. You know, it's like there's not all that angst there anymore. It's like you're you know, getting to a I don't know, better place in life.
Sure.
You know, so your art's going to reflect that. I mean, it's like country music too. Like I don't know, like the saddest. I mean, it's like the best fucking songs come from the most tragic shit. You know, It's like all the, you know, if you have the ability to, you know, it's kind of like humor in a way. Like if you have a good sense of humor and you're funny, you can get through anything, you know? And I feel like the funniest people I know have been through the worst shit, and they're the funniest. And I feel like the people who have been through the worst shit are the best artists and the best songwriters. And like, you know what I mean? It's like the more shit you've gone through, just the more, I don't know, what is it like?
Substance.
There's more substance. Yeah.
Or is that just something we want to believe too?
Yeah.
Well,
or is that just
psychologically?
I mean, some people are just geniuses and they have like a visionary type of work that they have to, you know, get out there that just comes out naturally. There's people that just draw constantly because that's what they have to do. Then there's people like, I mean, there's all shapes and sizes. I think that the classic, like cliche tortured artist thing is way overrated, and I think it's becoming a thing of the past. I think it is a thing of the past, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
because we're not tortured these days, even if we're not doing well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tortured artist thing, if the art world promotes it, it's going to be like artists that are like Chinese or African Americans, that you see a lot lately, and super good because they're getting their story out. But white people being tortured, that's kind of like bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
And they still can have pain and everything, but I just don't think that, like living under a totalitarian government might be the kind of thing that we'll consider tortured artists.
Yeah. I think there's one or two artists. There's one in particular that I really, really love his work, and it's because he figured out how to say something really good, really poignant with humor. So if you can like make a point, talk some shit without saying anything, and have it be funny, it sinks in so hard.
Who is this guy?
Eric Yunker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for people to go check it out,
Yeah. Yahnker. I think, yeah. My friend Pascal Shirley turned me on to him, and ended up meeting him in LA. And the guy's just like, I felt very akin to him for some reason. I don't want to pump myself up like that, because what he had done was a thought process that I had gone through, and was always trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah.
I'd integrate portraits and stuff to try to tell part of the story. He was like, he tells it so well, and it's all about the American dream. It's fucking perfect. But he was a guy who went to art school for animation, and through animation made enough money to be able to not have to be an animator, because he didn't want to be an animator. He wanted to figure out what it was to be an artist. So I think he had done, his story is really cool, but basically during the time of going to CalArts, he had to get a job to pay for it. So he was looking at the school message board of like jobs for that were available. And one of them was like, had something to do with it. He had to be able to play basketball, and he was good at basketball. So he went and interviewed, and was the South Park guys. So he went and worked for those guys, and then I think he stopped going to school, but he actually did this other job he got was like for Seinfeld animations, and that's what gave him the money to like do whatever he wanted, really quick.
So you need to find your you got to find your
voice. However it happens, you got to like know what you want to do basically, and find your voice. Yeah.
No, but I'm saying more like you need to find that golden egg that will support the shit that you really want to do. It's like sell out to keep it real. Like it's like, I don't know, maybe you should get into porn for a while and just save up a bunch of money and then just retire on that and then make art.
I don't think there's enough money in it anymore. It's unfortunate. I missed that window.
I feel like
you've researched it though. Painting dicks is not going to work.
I think it's got to be something. I had an idea the other night. I remember I saying like I almost drowned. I think I had a DMT flash from almost drowning, because I had the craziest, most profound ideas, and they're still in my head, and they're not losing the strength.
The value. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that they weren't just like some fleeting thing. So I had some revelations with that in terms of like directions to do. I don't think it's going to be in anything that you would ever think. What I'm thinking is really off the wall in a good way, but it's not.
Well, like it.
You'd ever. It doesn't make sense. One of them, it started from me saying my new goal is I need to be able to buy a house. However that happens, I need to buy a house in the next couple of years. And I have no money, nothing.
So it sounds like you're leaning in a more grounded kind of direction.
Because I'm
anchored.
I'm constantly held back by this stupid little thing, and it's not getting easier for me or for anyone. And I know I'm not a genius, but I'm not an idiot. And I know some of my I won't call them mental issues, but that's what they are. But like my impulsiveness, that doesn't help too much with financial stuff. And I've always just, the way I learned, talking about going back to programming, of like I didn't get any information from my family or anything, so I've always just been like horrible with money. Just like if I have it, everyone's taken care of. I'm do what I need to do, but I'm not good at thinking too far into the future. I'm just like it'll work out is my whole thing. I've got reckless optimism tattooed on my hand. I seriously want to burn it off and start over.
Well, absolutely anybody is capable of educating themselves in finance.
I never cared about money. I just like of course, everybody wants money and wants to be free because of it, but I didn't care enough about being wealthy to like have to actually get into it, you know, to make that a focus of mine. I was, you know, more worried about just being.
But you just said
it. Creative.
You just said it. It's not about the money. It's about the freedom. You know what I mean?
About the freedom, yeah.
Even if you're making 500 grand a fucking year at a shitty job and you have a sick apartment, nice car, like you never even get to enjoy the money because fuck money, dude. It's all about your time, you know? And it's like, if you got to spend your time working for a fucking dickwad all the time, like, I don't care how much money you're making. Like, that's a waste of a life, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm almost unemployable after A-Symbol and realizing like how hard it is to be, to do two things at once. Cause I was working, you know, whatever, 9 to 5 and then go home, exercise, eat and work till 4 a.m. And I did that for 5 years.
Let me know what A-Symbol is. I'm not familiar with that.
Well, Travis, when I was in Jackson, he wanted to do something with me. And, you know, it was a Travis small idea that turned into a Travis real idea. So it was completely like, you know, not want to say over the top, but it was way different than I thought it was going to be. He went nuts. He was like, the first initial thing was he asked me if, he's like, you want to do some prints of your artwork and we'll split it 50-50? I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And then a month later, it's like, oh, we got a meeting tomorrow. Come over here. We're starting. And I was like, should I quit my job? He's like, yep, quit your job. I did, and it snowballed into this huge idea of like the photography. And so basically Travis wanted to make a visual archive of iconic snowboard art and photos, and put it in a gallery setting, but a gallery setting more like along the lines of like Peter Licht or one of the ones that you'd see that's more mainstream, not like a, you know, small, it's more of like, I don't want to call it what it is, but it's like artists or people who don't want to think about art.
Okay.
It was pretty pictures, basically. Pretty pictures based in snowboard.
That evoke nostalgia as opposed to...
Yeah, definitely. With the graphic stuff. But it's just, we kind of... I think it was a great thing. It lasted for 10 years. It really was a beautiful, generous thing that Travis did. And for the time that it existed, I think a lot of people really, really appreciated it, and as did I. But it's just too bad that there's not a going forward. You know, like there's a pretty small ceiling, you know, and there's not that much like great art being made, and all the snowboard photos, I think all the great ones, the nostalgic ones, they're already taken. It's just a weird thing. Sports, you don't ever, there's no like, except for skateboarding, you don't really think of sports and art together.
Yeah, A-Symbol was really fucking cool, man. While that lasted, that was it. Kind of felt like it was a bit of a, I don't know, it was kind of a headquarters for our little crew, kind of, you know, like you guys would throw parties and stuff. Like it was, I miss that. Like, it's too bad that, like you said,
and it was a career.
Sustained.
It could have gone a lot. I mean, obviously, hindsight's 2020, but it could have done things differently, and I think it could have gone a different direction. But you know, Travis he's the owner of the company, and he's got so much shit going on. It's really hard to do something that intense and do something else at the same time. And Travis has multiple else's. So
and it's hard to keep throwing money into a fucking bonfire. You know.
Well, that sounds like a helicopter.
Yeah. I mean, it was an expensive thing to start, and there was some missteps in the beginning that put us in the hole to start. And, But I think,
of course,
Travis, he's like, I'd rather lose the money than to not have done it and to have that idea. I told him at one point, you got to decide if you're going to be a philanthropist or a businessman, and if you're going to be a businessman, you should shut it down now. It was like a year or two.
Yeah.
Is there like a book or something you can see what from start to finish what went on, or is there anything along those lines?
There was
that's actually a good idea. You guys should make it
on my Instagram account. That's about it.
I'll check that out then.
I look at them all the time because I was looking at the studio space I had and how I think I really feel good about the work that I did there because I really put everything into it. It really felt like it was exactly what I needed to be doing at the time, and it was. Yeah. So I gave it 100%, and I saw what I can do if I have the resources behind me, and I can try to work at my full potential.
Awesome.
But that was it. Just turned out to be. I just ended up. Ended up moving, and so I could further the cause, and it didn't work out the way I thought it would.
That was a good era for you, man. Like, you had a fucking really nice apartment. you're working at A Symbol. It was like, I don't know. That was a good run for you.
Well, just living in Jackson in general, man. There's something about Jackson. I've never been more like successful. I've never been. Everything just lines up. There's a lot of money there, but there's a lot of people willing to help each other.
Good support community.
It's insane. I do so well, and then I go back and I see friends of mine that are just. It's just crazy, the growth. They exceeded what we were talking about when I left, and they're just moving on to new heights. Always, it's really incredible.
Well, they got a Whole Foods, don't they?
Do they?
Oh
shit.
No, they have something called Whole Grocer.
But it's a really, you don't see like, oh, so and so died of an OD or nothing. It's like nobody ever has beef with each other there. Everything's really good. And it's
I mean, there's a little drama there, but but
not like,
it's minor.
I get it. I'm from a town really similar to Jackson, kind of in a sense, very tourist driven, but very good sense of community, and it's awesome. You just can't get that anywhere else. You can't get that in cities, and
it's ultimately what led me to leave, but it also brings me back there.
Mm-hmm. So, I find as long as when people blame all of their problems on a small town, I have lots of friends that say, I got to get out of here. There's too much coke. There's too much party. Banff sucks, or Jackson sucks. It's like that's not the town's problem. That's your problem.
The habit stuck.
You got to figure that out.
I really was like really pushing more towards like wanting to be an artist because I thought I was going to go to LA and then move to New York after that. So it was just culturally void.
It's a hard place to be an artist, I can imagine. Yeah.
It was also too, I felt you get a false sense of security, like big fish, little pond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big time.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Well, Mikey, this has been fucking awesome, man.
Amazing.
Really, really appreciate your time. So good to catch up, and can't wait to hang out with you in real life. And
you should come over sometime.
Yeah, I will after the when it's appropriate.
You can still come now. There's fucking more tourists here than ever. You just do the test before, and then it's cheap as hell to come over here right now.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe that'll happen.
Dude, I'd rather have you here than these other guys driving Jeeps around, fucking stand-up paddleboards sticking out the top.
Dude, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up with a boogie board, dude, and just like embarrass you super bad. I just keep
Dude, you just gotta go out. You just gotta go out and get one.
Just do it.
Is there anybody laying down the law on boogie boards out there?
Oh yeah. There's people that are not, but they don't get the respect. But there's if you pull into a fucking pipeline barrel on a bodyboard, you're still there.
You're gnarly.
Yeah, you're gnarly. Yeah. If that thing lands on your back, you're dead.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to think more after this conversation. So thanks. It was nice to meet you too, Mike.
Definitely.
And this week's episode is sponsored by mushrooms. Go and get some. maybe you too can paint amazing graphics for 3 decades.
Mikey, good luck with everything. And love you like a brother. Let me know.
I can't wait to revisit this.
If I can ever help you out, and let's do this again. This is a good way to catch up with your friends. I really like it.
Cheers. Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
Later, Mike. Have a good day, man.
Aloha.
Adios. What's the opposite of aloha? Like aloha goodbye.
It's aloha. Hello and goodbye. Yeah.
All right. Well, aloha.